Before European settlers ever set foot in this area, this place was important. Now it's just a blue sign on a back road that most people are unaware of. But to get into the history of the Bloody Springs, we're going to have to explore and learn more. When white settlers first came to this area, there was already a bustling trading settlement. Over the next few years, this population grew as hundreds more natives moved here and lived under the wise and patient rule of Chief Shikellamy. These native migrants resettled from areas now occupied by European settlers. They came from the tribes of the Lenape and Munsee, Delaware, from the Delaware Valley, the Saponi and Tutelo from Virginia, as well as the Shawnee, Iroquois, and Susquehannock, of which the Susquehanna River gets its name. The native town of Shamokin was spread along this whole area in what is now modern-day Sunbury, Packers Island, and Northumberland. 11 different native paths converge in this area, making it an important location for trade and diplomacy. The Bottom Path, the Catawissa Path, the Great Island Path, the Great Shamokin Path, the Great Warriors Path, the Paxtang Path, the Penns Creek Path, the Susquehanna Path, the Topahawken Path, the Tuscarora Path, and the Wyoming Path all met in Shamokin. Back here at our site is where Chief Shikellamy is believed to have held his councils of peace with both native and European diplomats. At least politically, this place was sacred. Fun fact, tons of stuff around here is named after Shikellamy, including the local school district and the elementary school. But that wasn't even his name. Shikellamy was an Oneida title given to him as a diplomat and peacemaker, the title meaning he who brings light to us. He was also called Ongawater Ohayate, meaning it has caused the sky to be bright for us, and Swatane, our enlightener. You can bet there will be a video all about him coming up. Fast forward a couple of years. Chief Shikellamy has passed away. Tensions are hot between the natives and the white settlers, and they're only getting hotter with the helpful prodding of French influence. In November of 1755, Andrew Montour and an Oneida warrior chief named Menakatutha addressed the Provincial Assembly at Harris's Ferry, what is the modern-day Pennsylvania capital of Harrisburg, and suggested building a fort at the site of Shamokin. They warned that if the British didn't build a fort soon, the French would take the land and build their own fort. Governor Morris agreed at once, but the rest of the assembly was unconvinced. It was April of 1756 before they finally agreed to the construction of the fort, but they insisted that a troop of 400 men be raised first. By the time the troops arrived, the situation had drastically changed. In 1755, a treaty had been made between the Iroquois and the English, allowing the English to place permanent settlements along Penns Creek, and they quickly began doing just that. The Lenape Indians, who had recently been relocated to that area, saw these settlements as a betrayal of the treaties they had made with the Iroquois. A massacre took place at Penns Creek October 17, 1755, and set off a series of raids in the area. Tensions between the natives and the mostly English and German settlers in this area were hotter than they'd ever been. The natives remaining in Shamokin at the time decided it was time to leave, and when the last of them left Shamokin, they set fire to the buildings and fields. When the troops finally arrived at the site, they found mounds of ash and waste. The entire settlement of Shamokin had been burned to the ground. Undeterred and under orders, the men set about beginning construction of the fort in June or July. However, their provisions were sparse. Morale was low. Sometime in August, many of the officers stationed at the fort resigned their posts, abandoning the remaining soldiers and the partially constructed fort. This is our scene on August 29, 1755. A couple hundred men, most of them barely teenagers. A few women, about 20 cows, and a piece of a fort on the frontier and front lines of the French and Indian War. Two soldiers, Samuel Miles and Samuel Atlee, both 16 years old, decided to risk a walk to a fruitful plum tree located about a half mile from the fort site. They were unaware that they had been spotted by a couple of French allied natives who had seen them leaving the fort from the nearby ridge and had moved into wait near the spring. Imagine that this place, there's no trees, there's no buildings. Any trees that weren't burned out by the natives as they left were clear cut by the soldiers as they moved in to build the new fort. So you got vast open area between Fort Augusta, which is that way, and the spring, which is back this way. The natives were up on the ridge and spotted our two Sams as they were walking toward the springs. They decided to move down and lie in wait. Sadly, there's no plum trees here today. This is the corner where the plum tree is believed to have been located, and the old Indian orchard was in this area. We can see the ridge line, the hill line here, the kind of sloping hills, got multiple ridge lines. Kind of have to imagine before construction. And right down there is where the springs is located, so we can see the close proximity of everything to each other. To the natives, this was a place where the fathers made peace, but they had been unjustly removed from the lands, and this place of peace is being turned into a place of war. Taking soldiers here would be a symbol. A third soldier, James Patton, was guarding the herd of cows in a nearby field, somewhere in this area where the Sunbury Pool is today. Because of the way the ridge line is cut here, even without trees, he would have been unseen by the natives on the upper ridge line. It was a hot August day. James thought he'd pop around that corner and get a drink from the spring. When James came to the spring, he surprised the two natives who were lying in wait. They quickly shot and scalped him. His body fell into the waters and slowly turned to crimson with his blood. The two Sams heard the shot, and they went booking it for the fort. The shot was also heard at the fort, and they sent out a party to investigate. They pursued the natives and searched the area. According to a letter by the commanding officer, marks were found about 15 yards from the spring, up in that area, where it's believed the natives had been lying in wait. Soldiers from the fort and native trackers looked for the native perpetrators, but they were never found. Since then, this site has been known as the Bloody Spring.